Hello, beautiful soul. I'm Aurora, and welcome to Twin Flame Journey, a space where we explore the deeper meaning behind soul connections, divine timing, and the path that leads two hearts back to union. If you've been feeling the signs, you're in the right place.
He doesn't start chasing when he suddenly realizes your worth. That's the part people romanticize because it sounds cleaner. No, usually, by the time the divine masculine starts chasing, something inside him has already collapsed quietly behind the scenes. And it's rarely dramatic at first. It looks more like him sitting in his car till long after work replaying one random thing you said 3 months ago. Or checking your profile at 1:14 a.m., then locking his phone like he's angry at himself for caring. Or telling his friends he's fine while his apartment slowly starts looking like somebody emotionally gave up living there. Because the truth is, most men don't start running toward connection the moment they feel love. A lot of them start moving only after the distraction stops working, after the ego high fades, after the silence gets loud, after they realize peace and numbness are not the same thing. And the strange part is, when he finally starts chasing, he often still looks emotionally confused while doing it. Part of him wants intimacy. Another part still wants the exit door unlocked. That contradiction is what makes this whole thing so painful and so real. Because by the time he comes forward, something has already happened internally that he can't unfeel anymore, even if he tries to. He said he needed space. Not dramatically. Not during some explosive ending where doors slammed and somebody cried in the rain. Actually, it was quieter than that, which almost made it worse. Because sometimes the relationships that affect people the deepest don't end with chaos, they end with emotional hesitation, long pauses, half-finished sentences, someone looking at the floor too much while pretending they've already made peace with their decision. And that's how it usually starts for him. The divine masculine says he needs space because part of him genuinely believes distance will calm whatever is happening inside him. He thinks maybe things became too intense, too emotional, too consuming. Maybe he starts convincing himself the relationship is distracting him. Maybe he says he's overwhelmed. Maybe he says he's confused. And honestly, sometimes he is. That's the uncomfortable truth nobody likes admitting. Not every emotionally avoidant man is calculating. Some of them are genuinely overwhelmed by how deeply they feel something they don't fully understand. So he pulls away. And for the first few days, there's relief. Real relief. That part matters. Because people romanticize this too much sometimes, they act like the moment separation happens, he immediately collapses emotionally and starts crying in parking lots. No, sometimes the first thing he feels is relief. Relief that nobody is asking him hard emotional questions anymore. Relief that he doesn't have to explain why he went distant for 3 days. Relief that he can finally breathe without feeling emotionally observed all the time. And for a second, he mistakes relief for peace. That's where a lot of this begins. You can almost see it in his behavior. He becomes oddly productive at first. Suddenly he's cleaning things, organizing drawers, going to the gym more consistently, answering messages faster, staying busy on purpose. Busy people don't have to feel things immediately. That's the trick. And he doesn't even fully realize he's doing it. He just keeps moving. But then nighttime starts happening. That's usually when the performance breaks a little. Because daytime gives him structure, noise, distraction, notifications, tasks, movement. Night removes the witnesses. And silence is harder to control than people think. Especially when somebody left an emotional imprint on your nervous system. So now, he's sitting in his car outside his apartment for 20 extra minutes for absolutely no reason. Phone in his hand. Music playing softly. Not even listening to it. Just staring forward like his brain is buffering something emotionally. And this is the part he would never admit out loud. Part of him expects to feel freer than this. Instead, he just feels unfinished. But he keeps resisting the feeling. That's important. Because he doesn't immediately go, "Oh no, I miss her." No. Usually, it sounds more like, "This is probably healthier. I just need time. I need to focus on myself." Things were getting too emotionally complicated. And maybe some of that is true. But underneath all those explanations, something quieter starts happening. Tiny absences begin accumulating. Not dramatic absences. Human ones. Like reaching for his phone after seeing something funny, then remembering there's nobody to send it to anymore. Or walking through the grocery store and instinctively grabbing the snack she liked before realizing halfway through the aisle. Or hearing a song he swore didn't matter and suddenly feeling irritated for reasons he can't explain. That irritation is important too. People think longing always looks soft and romantic. Sometimes longing looks like emotional aggravation. Like becoming weirdly restless. Like pacing around your apartment. Like opening 3 apps in a row without absorbing anything you're looking at. Like exhaustion mixed with overstimulation. His body starts reacting before his mind catches up. Sleep becomes strange. Either he sleeps too much or barely at all. And when he does sleep, he wakes up checking his phone too quickly, almost automatically. Then there's that split second. That tiny half-awake moment where his nervous system still expects her presence. Maybe a message. Maybe her name. Maybe some emotional continuation. And when it's not there, something drops internally. Very fast. But he recovers quickly. Too quickly. That's the thing about emotionally avoidant men sometimes. They recover externally before the process internally. So he grabs coffee, opens social media, replies to people, goes to work, acts normal. Meanwhile, his body is carrying tension his mind keeps trying to rename as independence. And eventually, the silence starts changing shape. At first, silence felt peaceful. Now it starts feeling loud. Not literally loud. Emotionally loud. Like there's too much room in his own head now. And memory begins slipping through in random places. Not even important memories. That's what catches him off guard. It's never the dramatic relationship moments first. It's stupid little things. The way she used to say drive safe automatically. The way she adjusted the passenger seat every single time. The annoyed face she made when he skipped meals. One time she fell asleep halfway through a movie and denied it after waking up. Tiny things. Human things. Things he thought his brain wouldn't keep. But emotionally attached people remember in fragments, not timelines. And now those fragments are everywhere. He'll be driving home at night and suddenly replay one sentence she said weeks ago. Not because it was profound, because it was sincere. And sincerity stays in the body differently, especially for someone who spent years avoiding emotionally honest environments. Sometimes he even gets irritated at her in her absence, which sounds cruel, but it's real. Because now he can feel how much she affected him, and part of him resents that. Not her exactly, just the vulnerability of it. The loss of emotional control. That's why some divine masculines become colder after intimacy. People misunderstand this constantly. They think coldness means absence of feeling. Sometimes coldness is emotional overload trying to survive itself. And he doesn't know how to explain that without sounding ridiculous. So instead he says things like, "I just need space," even though the space itself is starting to eat him alive. And what's strange is he may still continue avoiding her while missing her deeply. That contradiction confuses people. But human beings contradict themselves emotionally all the time. Especially men taught to associate emotional dependence with weakness. So now he's checking her profile without interacting, watching stories carefully, pretending not to care while noticing everything. Maybe she posts less now. Maybe she posts happier photos now. Both affect him differently. If she looks sad, guilt starts creeping in. If she looks fine, insecurity starts creeping in. Either way, he loses emotional stability. But pride is still involved. So instead of reaching out, he becomes quieter. And honestly, sometimes immature. He might deliberately wait hours before replying if she contacts him. Not because he doesn't care, because caring already feels dangerous. There's also this specific kind of loneliness that starts showing up for him eventually. Not loneliness for attention, loneliness for emotional familiarity. And those are different things. Because attention is easy to replace temporarily, emotional familiarity isn't. You can distract yourself with people. You cannot easily replace the person your nervous system relaxed around. That realization sneaks up on him slowly, usually late at night, usually after everybody else is asleep. And sometimes the internal dialogue starts happening, quietly, embarrassingly. Heavy silence isn't the same as peace. I know. Then why did you leave? I don't know. That's not fully true. Fine, because it started feeling too real. And there it is. Not some grand spiritual revelation. Just a human being confronting the fact that intimacy exposed parts of him he could no longer comfortably hide from himself. That's why distance feels relieving at first. Because when someone truly sees you, being around them can feel emotionally demanding. Not because they're demanding something impossible, but because authenticity itself becomes unavoidable. And if he spent most of his life surviving emotionally through distraction, emotional control, avoidance, achievement, numbness, or independence, real intimacy feels destabilizing. So he runs towards silence expecting emotional relief, only to discover silence has its own voice. And unfortunately for him, it keeps sounding like her. At first, he thinks movement will save him. That's usually how this phase begins. More work, more noise, more plans, more people around him. Anything that keeps him from sitting still long enough to feel what's actually happening underneath everything. And honestly, for a while, it almost works. That's the dangerous part. He starts rebuilding routines quickly after the separation, maybe too quickly. Suddenly he's at the gym 5 days a week again, replying hi yeah bro in group chats every 15 minutes, staying out later than he normally would, watching things on his phone he doesn't even care about. His calendar starts looking full again. But internally, something still feels strangely disconnected. Like his body showed up to life before the rest of him did. And people around him may not even notice it immediately because externally, he looks functional. Sometimes even better than before. Cleaner haircut, better clothes, more control emotionally. That's another uncomfortable truth nobody talks about enough. Some men emotionally deteriorate in very organized ways. He might actually become more disciplined after losing her, more productive, more focused, more physically attractive even. But internally, there's this strange emotional flatness growing underneath all the self-improvement. And he can feel it in tiny moments he can't explain to anybody. Like laughing with friends and suddenly zoning out halfway through the conversation. Or sitting across from another woman who's objectively attractive and feeling absolutely nothing emotionally move inside him. Not sadness exactly, just absence. Like his nervous system stopped responding naturally. And he hates that feeling because it makes him feel broken in a way he can't name. So he doubles down on distraction. That's usually what happens next. More attention, more stimulation, more movement, But now the distractions start losing effectiveness faster. A night out distracts him for 2 hours instead of 2 days. A casual conversation gives temporary validation, then leaves him emptier afterward. He starts coming home feeling emotionally hungover from interactions that technically went well. And this is where the contradiction gets painfully human. Because part of him genuinely tries to move on. He does. People simplify men too much emotionally sometimes. They imagine he's sitting there consciously plotting emotional avoidance like some movie villain. Most of the time, no. Sometimes he's honestly trying to convince himself he's okay. Trying to become the version of himself he thinks he's supposed to be after separation. Detached, fine, unaffected. But performance has limits. Especially emotional performance. Eventually, his body starts rejecting experiences his ego keeps volunteering for. So now, he's lying in bed after a night out scrolling pointlessly through his phone while feeling this low-grade emptiness sitting in his chest. Not dramatic heartbreak. That's the thing. This stage is quieter than heartbreak. It's more like emotional malnourishment. And weirdly enough, what he starts missing first usually and passion. It's familiarity that catches him off guard. Because he expected to miss the intensity maybe, the chemistry, the attraction. But instead he misses ordinary things in embarrassingly specific ways. The way she'd send random photos during the day with no context. The sound of her moving round the kitchen while he pretended to keep watching TV. Her asking if he ate yet in that slightly annoyed voice. One time she laughed so hard at something stupid she started coughing and couldn't stop. He remembers that now for some reason. Not the big relationship milestones. Not the dramatic conversations. Just tiny human moments his body quietly archived without asking permission. And now those memories start interrupting him at random. At the gas station. At red lights. In line at coffee shops. He'll see somebody wearing a sweater similar to hers, and his entire mood shifts for 20 minutes. And what's strange is he may not even consciously think, I miss her. Instead, his body reacts first. His chest tightens slightly. His focus disappears. He rereads the same text message 3 times because mentally he's somewhere else now. Then comes the phone checking. Not obvious phone checking. Subtle phone checking. Emotionally embarrassing phone checking. The kind where he unlocks his phone without even realizing why. Checks notifications. No message. Locks phone. 30 seconds later repeats the process again like maybe reality changed in half a minute. And if she does text eventually, his nervous system reacts before his pride can organize itself. Heart rate shifts. Breathing changes slightly, but externally, he'll still try acting controlled. Maybe he waits before responding. Maybe he rewrites the message 6 times, deletes softer versions, makes the final response shorter than he wanted it to be, because vulnerability still feels dangerous even while he's starving emotionally. That contradiction becomes exhausting for him eventually. Wanting closeness while resisting exposure. Wanting her attention while pretending not to need it. And the sad part is sometimes he genuinely doesn't understand himself while this is happening. That's what makes this phase so psychologically messy. Because internally, 2 versions of him are fighting each other. One part says, "You need to move on." Another part quietly whispers, "Then why does nothing feel right without her?" And honestly, the second voice starts getting louder, especially during ordinary life. That's where her absence really starts haunting him. Not during dramatic emotional breakdowns. During normal Tuesday evenings. That's when it hits hardest sometimes. Because grief becomes more visible in routine than in crisis. He'll be eating takeout alone watching something half interesting on TV, and suddenly realize he hasn't actually emotionally relaxed in weeks. Not truly. Distraction isn't relaxation. Attention isn't connection. And deep down he knows the difference, even if he spent years pretending he didn't. There's also this phase where he starts comparing people unconsciously, and he feels guilty about it. Not because other people are bad, but because emotional familiarity is difficult to replicate artificially. Someone new laughs differently, texts differently, listens differently, and suddenly he notices how emotionally safe certain silences felt with her. That's what really ruins him eventually. The silence, not the exciting parts, the safe parts, the moments where he didn't need to perform masculinity constantly, where he could just exist for a second without managing perception all the time. And ironically, that level of emotional safety is exactly what scared him before. Because when someone becomes emotionally home-like to an avoidant person, panic often arrives right beside intimacy. People don't talk about that enough. Sometimes he pulled away not because the connection lacked depth, but because it had too much. And now the distractions are failing because distractions can imitate stimulation, but not emotional belonging. So his habits start getting stranger. He starts driving without destination sometimes, taking unnecessarily long routes home, listening to old voice notes, and immediately feeling stupid afterward, opening her chat history without typing anything, sometimes typing entire paragraphs, then deleting them because suddenly it all feels too vulnerable. There's one specific behavior that happens a lot during this stage that nobody really mentions. He starts mentally talking to her when she's not there. Not literally, just internally. Like seeing something during the day and instinctively thinking, she would have laughed at that. Or hearing a song and immediately imagining what her reaction would be. And those unconscious emotional reflexes begin terrifying him a little because now he realizes how deeply integrated she became into his internal world. That realization creates resistance again. So sometimes he becomes colder externally during this phase, more detached, more avoidant, which confuses people because internally he's actually missing her more than ever. But emotional overwhelm doesn't always produce closeness. Sometimes it produces shutdown, especially in men who learn emotional control before emotional honesty. And eventually, late at night, the internal dialogue starts returning again. Quietly, reluctantly. You miss her. No, I don't. Then why are you checking her profile at 2 a.m.? I'm just curious. Liar. Silence. Then another thought slips through before he can stop it. She knew when something was wrong with me before I even said anything. And for some reason, that memory hurts more than the loss itself. Because now the distractions are fading. The noise is fading. The ego is getting tired. And underneath all of it, he's beginning to realize something deeply uncomfortable. The relationship wasn't the thing suffocating him. The emotional honesty inside it was. And now, without her there, he doesn't feel free. He just feels alone in a way distractions can no longer fix. At some point, the separation stops feeling intellectual. That's the shift nobody prepares him for. Because in the beginning, he still thinks he can manage this emotionally through logic. He tells himself things like, "This is probably for the best. I just need time. I need to get myself together first." And maybe part of him even believes that. But eventually the body starts exposing what the mind is still trying to negotiate around. That's when her absence becomes physical. Not poetic. Not cinematic. Physical. Like his nervous system noticed she's gone before his ego did. And honestly, that realization irritates him at first. Because now he can't fully control it anymore. Before, He could distract himself, stay busy, keep moving. But bodies are inconveniently honest sometimes, especially when someone became emotionally familiar in a way that bypassed performance. So now strange things start happening. He wakes up exhausted even after sleeping 8 hours. Or he falls asleep instantly because emotional suppression drains him more than he realizes. Then, suddenly he's awake at 3:17 a.m. staring at the ceiling for no clear reason, feeling restless in a way he can't explain. Not panic exactly, just emotional static. Like something unresolved keeps moving underneath his skin. And during the day, little things start triggering reactions way bigger than they should. A perfume similar to hers in an elevator. Someone laughing with the same cadence she had. Hearing a phrase she used to say casually. His body reacts first every single time. Tiny chest drop. Brief loss of focus. That strange hollow feeling near the stomach. Then, immediately afterward comes resistance. Almost annoyance. Because now he has to face something uncomfortable. He's more attached than he admitted. And attachment embarrasses him a little. Especially if he's spent years building an identity around emotional self-control. So, instead of admitting what's happening, he starts minimizing it internally. I'm just tired. I've just been stressed lately. It's not about her. Meanwhile, he's replaying her voice while brushing his teeth. That's the thing about emotionally significant connections. They sneak into routine, not just memory. Routine. And routines are dangerous because they expose how much emotional presence existed in ordinary moments. Now, he notices how quiet the apartment sounds. Not because she was loud, because her existence filled space differently. There used to be movement, small conversations, background energy. Even silence felt accompanied somehow. Now silence feels vacant. And he starts compensating for it unconsciously, leaving the TV running longer, playing podcasts he barely listens to, scrolling until his eyes hurt, anything to avoid feeling the actual texture of emotional absence. But avoidance starts malfunctioning now. That's the phase he wasn't expecting, because the body keeps pulling him backward emotionally in ways his pride can't fully stop. He'll unlock his phone without thinking and open her conversation automatically. Not even to message her. Just to look. Just to feel temporarily connected to something familiar. Then he catches himself doing it and suddenly feels stupid. So he closes the app quickly like he got caught by someone. Even though he's alone. Especially when he's alone. And honestly, loneliness starts changing shape for him during this chapter. At first, loneliness was abstract. Now it becomes sensory. The cold side of the bed, the lack of notifications from the one person whose messages actually regulated his mood. The weird ache after seeing something beautiful and having nobody specific to share it with. And these moments don't usually destroy him dramatically. They wear him down quietly. That's what makes it dangerous. It's cumulative. Tiny emotional cuts all day long. He starts noticing how often his body anticipated her presence without permission. Like reaching for the phone during lunch because that used to be when she texted him. Or instinctively checking the passenger seat while driving because she used to sit there playing with the music. One night he's driving home and a song comes on that she used to hum absent-mindedly. Nothing dramatic even happens. He doesn't cry, doesn't pull over. He just grips the steering wheel harder for a few seconds and suddenly can't breathe normally. That's it. That's how these moments usually look in real life. Brief, ugly, quietly destabilizing. And because he's still emotionally avoidant in certain ways, he keeps trying to regain control immediately afterward. Changes the song, rolls the window down, checks his phone, anything to interrupt feeling. But the interruption doesn't last as long anymore. That's the problem. Her absence has moved deeper into the nervous system now. And the nervous system doesn't care about pride. He also starts becoming emotionally inconsistent in ways people around him may notice before he does. More irritable suddenly, then withdrawn, then overly social one night, then impossible to reach emotionally the next day. Because suppression requires energy, and eventually the emotional exhaustion leaks through behavior. Sometimes he'll snap at someone over nothing, then feel weirdly empty afterward. Not angry, just depleted. And underneath all of it is this growing realization he keeps trying not to name. She became emotionally safe to him. That's the part that really scares him. Because emotional safety sounds beautiful until you realize how terrifying it feels for someone who spent most of their life emotionally guarded. Now, he understands why intimacy made him restless. Why he pulled away after vulnerable moments. Why sometimes, after the deepest conversations, he suddenly needed distance. Part of him wanted closeness desperately. Another part associated closeness with emotional exposure. So, the closer she got, the more his nervous system started sounding alarms he didn't fully understand. And now, without her, those alarms are gone. But somehow he feels worse. That contradiction starts haunting him. You wanted space. I know. So why does this feel wrong? No answer. Because the truth is messy. Part of him did want space. But another part wanted reassurance without vulnerability. Connection without emotional risk. Love without being fully seen. And human beings don't actually work that way for long. Not deeply. Eventually, intimacy demands honesty from the body even when the mouth stays silent. That's what's happening to him now. His body is confessing attachment his pride still refuses to verbalize. And there's another humiliating thing that starts happening during this phase. He begins mentally returning to her during moments of distress automatically. That day at work, he thinks about texting her, feels emotionally overwhelmed. Her voice enters his head. Something good happens. Instinctively wants to tell her first. That reflex alone destabilizes him, because now he realizes how emotionally integrated she became into his internal world. Not performatively, not romantically, neurologically. And suddenly he understands why nothing external is fully landing emotionally anymore. Because people can replace stimulation much easier than emotional regulation. That realization usually arrives late for him. Painfully late. There's also this strange grief that appears when he realizes she probably felt his inconsistency while loving him anyway. That memory starts replaying now too. The moments she looked hurt but stayed calm. The moments she asked if something was wrong and he said nothing while clearly shutting down emotionally. The moments she reached toward him gently and he became colder instead of softer. Now those memories don't feel relieving anymore. They feel heavy. Because distance gave him perspective he couldn't tolerate while inside the relationship. And perspective is cruel sometimes. Especially delayed perspective. One night he almost messages her. Actually types everything out. A real message this time. Not casual. Not detached. Something honest. Something dangerous. I miss you in ways I don't know how to explain. He stares at it for almost 2 minutes. Then deletes the entire thing. Not because it wasn't true. Because it was. And honesty still terrifies him when it reaches that level. So instead he puts the phone face down and walks into the kitchen pretending he's hungry. Makes food he barely touches. Stands there in silence, emotionally restless. And somewhere inside himself, another realization quietly forms. Maybe he wasn't emotionally independent like he thought. Maybe he was emotionally defended. And now that the distractions are weakening, now that the silence has entered the body, he can no longer pretend her absence is only emotional. Because at this point, even his nervous system is looking for her. What breaks him emotionally usually ain't the ending. Not at first. It's the replaying. The constant replaying of things that didn't seem important when they were happening. That's the strange cruelty of emotional attachment. The mind rarely clings to the dramatic moments first. It clings to the ordinary ones, the unguarded ones, the moments too small to perform. And now, his brain starts returning to them without permission. Not occasionally. Constantly. Like some part of him is trying to rebuild her from fragments. A look. A sentence. The sound of her keys hitting the kitchen counter. The way she used to pause before answering certain emotional questions. Tiny things. Painfully tiny things. And the worst part is he doesn't control when the memories show up. That's what starts exhausting him. Because memories become ambushes now. He'll be in the middle of something completely normal when suddenly one specific moment replays so vividly it changes his entire emotional state. Standing in line for coffee, driving through traffic, folding laundry, and suddenly, there she is again. Not physically, but emotionally detailed in a way that feels almost unfair. He remembers one night she fell asleep on the couch while waiting for him to finish working. That memory ruins him for some reason. Not because anything dramatic happened. Actually, that's exactly why it hurts. Because nobody performs love in moments like that. She was half awake when he told her to go to bed properly. She just mumbled something tired and reached for his wrist without opening her eyes. That's it. That's the whole memory. And now he can't stop replaying it. Not because it was cinematic. Because it was real. There's another memory too. One he keeps returning to even though it makes his chest tighten every single time. They were in the car after a small argument. Nothing explosive. Just tension. The kind where both people pretend to look out the windows because neither one wants to say the vulnerable thing first. And eventually she said quietly, "I don't think you realize how much you shut down when you care." At the time, he got defensive internally. Maybe even cold. Maybe he changed the subject afterward. Maybe he acted irritated instead of honest. But now he hears that sentence in his head at random times like his own conscience borrowed her voice. Especially late at night. Especially during silence. And what makes it worse is that he's starting to realize she was right about things he wasn't ready to hear back then. That realization creates this ugly emotional mixture inside him. Longing, regret, embarrassment, defensiveness, all at once. Human emotions are rarely clean when they're real. And honestly, part of him still tries resisting the memories. That's important too, because replaying her doesn't immediately make him emotionally open. Sometimes it makes him colder for a while, more withdrawn. Because now every memory forces him to confront versions of himself he doesn't fully like. The moments he emotionally disappeared during intimacy. The moments she was trying to connect while he subtly detached. The moments he sensed her needing reassurance and gave distance instead. Now those moments replay differently. Perspective changes memory. That's what's happening to him. At the time, he thought he was protecting himself. Now, he's starting to wonder if he was sabotaging something he secretly wanted. And that question becomes dangerous. Because once the thought enters his head, he can't fully escape it anymore. So now the replaying gets worse. He starts mentally reviewing conversations like someone searching for hidden meaning after the fact. One sentence especially keeps haunting him. It wasn't even emotional when she said it. That's what bothers him. They were grocery shopping, completely ordinary day. She looked at him while grabbing something off the shelf and said, You act like people are hard to lose until they actually leave. She smiled afterward like she didn't even realize the sentence landed deeply. At the time, he laughed it off. Now he hears it while driving home at night. Now it follows him into quiet rooms. Now it feels less like a sentence and more like an emotional bruise. Because deep down he's starting to realize she understood him more than he allowed himself to admit. And being understood that deeply feels exposing in retrospect. That's another reason avoidant men replay memories obsessively after separation. The distance removes emotional pressure, which finally allows emotional clarity to arrive. Too late sometimes. Painfully too late. Now he notices details he ignored while she was there. The way her voice changed slightly when she was heard, but trying to stay composed. The way she stopped asking certain questions near the end because she already knew his answers. The exhausted softness in her eyes during conversations where she was trying not to push him emotionally. Those memories don't feel romantic now. They feel devastating. Because hindsight strips away the ego protections he had while inside the relationship. And suddenly he sees things from outside himself. That perspective is brutal. Especially for someone who relied on emotional distance to maintain control. There's also this weird phase where he starts replaying physical gestures more than words. The body remembers tenderness differently. The way she touched his arm absent-mindedly while talking. The way she adjusted his hoodie strings once because they looked uneven. The habit she had of fixing things around him without making it obvious. These memories hit him harder than grand declarations ever did, because small care is difficult to fake. And now he realizes how much love existed inside ordinary behavior. That realization destabilizes him emotionally in ways he doesn't expect. He becomes distracted easier now. People talk to him and he misses parts of conversations because mentally he's somewhere else again. Sometimes he catches himself staring at nothing for long periods of time, replaying one tiny scene over and over. Like the last time she hugged him before things became distant. Or the exact expression on her face the moment she realized he was emotionally pulling away again. That one especially hurts. Because now he recognizes it immediately. Disappointment mixed with understanding. Like part of her already knew she couldn't force him to stay emotionally present. And honestly, that memory makes him feel ashamed in a way he doesn't know how to process yet. So sometimes he gets angry at himself, then defensive, then sad, then numb. The emotional rhythm becomes inconsistent now, because replaying memories doesn't just create longing, it creates confrontation. And confrontation is exhausting when the person you're confronting is yourself. One night he opens their old messages. Not intentionally at first. Just curiosity. That's what he tells himself. But 2 hours later he's still scrolling. Reading conversations from months ago. Noticing emotional patterns he ignored while living inside them. He notices how often she tried gently reaching toward him emotionally. How many times she softened conflict first. How often she translated his silence instead of forcing explanations from him. And there's this horrible moment that happens sometimes during memory replay where he suddenly realizes, she loved me more honestly than I loved her back. Not more deeply necessarily. That's different. But more honestly, because she expressed what he concealed. And now, he's stuck carrying feelings he delayed too long to understand. There is another internal dialogue that starts happening during this phase too. Quiet, awkward, almost humiliating. You miss her. No, I miss how she made me feel. Then why do you remember the way she looked tired after work? Silence. Why do you remember the exact tone of her laugh when she was genuinely relaxed? More silence. Because now he's realizing something difficult. He doesn't just miss attention. He misses her specifically. And specificity changes everything emotionally. Because generic loneliness can be distracted away. Specific longing cannot. That's why the replaying intensifies. His mind keeps searching through memories, trying to solve something emotionally unresolved. Trying to understand when exactly he started losing her. Trying to locate the moment distance quietly entered the relationship. And sometimes he finds it. Not in one catastrophic event, but in patterns. Missed emotional opportunities. Deflected vulnerability. Moments he chose emotional control instead of emotional honesty. That realization doesn't transform him overnight. That's important. People don't become emotionally mature in one cinematic breakthrough. Sometimes he still avoids, still shuts down, still pretends he's fine around other people. But internally, the replaying has already started changing him. Because once someone's love becomes emotionally undeniable in memory, the version of him that kept minimizing the connection starts collapsing. And unfortunately for him, memories are patient. They wait until the silence is loud enough to be heard properly. At some point, the memories stop being random. They start connecting. That's when things become emotionally dangerous for him. Because now he's no longer just missing her. Now he's beginning to understand what she actually saw while she was loving him. And honestly, that realization makes him deeply uncomfortable. Not in a dramatic, cinematic way. More in a quiet, exposed way. Like suddenly realizing somebody had been reading emotions off your face while you spent months insisting you were fine. He starts replaying conversations differently now. Not from his perspective, from hers. That shift changes everything. Because distance gives him something he didn't have well inside the relationship. Perspective without immediate defensiveness. And unfortunately, perspective is merciless sometimes. Now, he notices things he couldn't tolerate seeing before. The way she looked at him after he emotionally disappeared for days. Not angry, just tired. The way she would ask simple questions softly instead of accusing him directly. Are you okay lately? Did I do something? Why do you feel far away again? And every time, he gave partial truths instead of honest ones. That's another painful thing he starts realizing. He wasn't lying to her exactly, but he wasn't fully letting her see him either. There's a difference. And people who love deeply can feel that difference immediately. Now, he understands why she always seemed emotionally exhausted near the end. She was trying to maintain intimacy with someone who kept emotionally stepping backward every time things became too real. That realization sits heavy inside him now, especially because she usually approached him gently. That's what makes the guilt worse. If she had been cruel, maybe he could have defended himself emotionally longer. But she wasn't. She was patient in ways he didn't fully appreciate until after the silence. And now, certain memories replay with completely different meaning. One night she asked him, "Why do you act like needing someone is weakness?" At the time, he shrugged it off, made some sarcastic comment, changed the subject. But now he realizes she wasn't criticizing him. She was trying to understand him. That difference ruins him a little. Because emotionally avoidant people often mistake emotional closeness for pressure. So, while she was trying to move closer carefully, he experienced parts of the relationship like emotional exposure. And exposure triggers defense. Not because the love wasn't real, because it was. That's what made it threatening. Now, he's starting to recognize something he avoided for a long time. She saw through his coping mechanisms almost immediately. The distancing, the emotional withdrawal, the sudden coldness after intimacy, the way he used humor to avoid vulnerable conversations. She noticed all of it, and somehow she stayed. That part unsettles him deeply now, because it means she wasn't loving some polished version of him. She was loving him while actively witnessing his contradictions. And he doesn't know what to do with that realization emotionally, especially because he's starting to see how much energy she spent trying not to shame him for his emotional inconsistency. That memory keeps replaying now too. The restraint she had, the way she'd pause before responding, sometimes like she was carefully choosing softness over escalation. And honestly, part of him hates himself a little when he remembers those moments now. Not in a performative way. Not "I'm the worst person alive." Just quiet shame. The kind that settles in your chest slowly. Because now he sees how many times she was trying to create emotional safety while he kept treating vulnerability like danger. And the worst part, sometimes she understood him better than he understood himself. That realization creates this strange emotional grief in him. Because now he can hear hidden meanings inside old conversations. Things she tried saying indirectly because she knew direct confrontation made him shut down emotionally. Like the time she joked, "You disappear emotionally so fast sometimes I can literally feel it happen." He laughed when she said it, but she wasn't really joking. Now he understands that. Now he realizes she was constantly adapting herself around his emotional unpredictability, trying not to push too hard, trying not to trigger distance, trying to stay connected without making him feel trapped. And suddenly he begins confronting an ugly truth. She wasn't asking him for perfection. She was asking him for honesty. That's what breaks something open inside him. Because honesty would have required him to admit things he barely admitted to himself. That he was scared of intimacy. That closeness made him feel emotionally dependent. That being fully seen felt both comforting and terrifying at the same time. Instead, he kept trying to maintain emotional control while still receiving emotional love. And human beings eventually collapse under that contradiction. Now, the memories feel heavier, because he's no longer just replaying what she did. He's replaying who he became around real intimacy. And he doesn't fully like what he sees. There's one memory that keeps returning late at night. Small moment. Almost forgettable. They were lying in bed, and she asked him something simple. "What's the worst part about letting people get close to you?" He took too long to answer. He remembers that now. The silence, the tension in his chest, the instinctive urge to make a joke instead. Eventually, he said something vague like, "People leave eventually." And she looked at him for a second before quietly saying, "Sometimes people leave because they can feel you leaving first." That sentence lives inside him now. Not loudly, quietly, like a bruise you accidentally press throughout the day. Because deep down he knows she was right. Part of him was emotionally leaving long before the relationship physically fractured. Not because he stopped caring. That's the tragedy of it. He cared deeply, but closeness activated fear almost as strongly as love. So instead of leaning inconsistently, he fluctuated. Connected deeply one moment, withdrawn the next, warm then distant, present then unreachable. And emotionally, that inconsistency exhausted both of them. Now, he sees it clearly enough to feel ashamed, but not clearly enough to fully forgive himself yet. That's important, because this chapter isn't enlightenment. It's exposure, messy exposure. And exposure makes people defensive before it makes them honest. So sometimes he still tries minimizing things internally. She wasn't perfect either. And that's true. She wasn't. But that thought doesn't comfort him anymore the way it used to. Because now he's confronting something deeper than blame. He's confronting accountability. Quiet accountability. The kind nobody forces onto you. The kind that arrives when your nervous system finally stops running long enough to tell the truth. There is another uncomfortable realization happening too. She often reacted to wounds he refused to acknowledge existed. That changes his entire perspective on her emotional responses. Things he once labeled as too emotional now look different in hindsight. Now he sees the emotional confusion he caused, the mixed signals, the intimacy followed by withdrawal, the affection followed by sudden emotional absence. And honestly, if he's really honest with himself, some part of him expected her to endlessly understand him while he explained almost nothing. That realization embarrasses him, because emotionally immature masculinity often expects unconditional emotional interpretation without vulnerable communication. He sees that now, painfully, and the strange thing is this growing self-awareness doesn't immediately make him reach out. Sometimes it makes him quieter first, because shame often silences people before it transforms them. Now, when he thinks about messaging her, another voice enters his head. What would you even say? I don't know. You hurt her. I know. You left emotionally before she did. Silence. Then another thought. But you loved her. And that's where the real emotional conflict begins. Because now, he has to sit with the unbearable complexity of loving someone sincerely while still mishandling them emotionally. People want clean categories. Good person, bad person. Real love, fake love. But human beings are rarely that simple. Sometimes someone loves deeply and still lacks the emotional maturity to sustain closeness consistently. That's the truth he's choking on now. And the more he accepts that she truly saw him, the more impossible it becomes to pretend the connection was casual. Because casual connections don't expose people like this. Casual connections don't leave you replaying conversations 6 months later realizing someone understood parts of you that you were actively hiding. And somewhere during all this replaying, all this shame, all this delayed clarity, another realization quietly forms inside him. Maybe the reason he felt so emotionally overwhelmed around her was because she kept loving the parts of him he was still trying to avoid himself. There's a point where the performance starts slipping. Not publicly at first. Most people around him still think he's okay. He still goes to work, still answers messages, still laughs at the right moments in conversations. Externally, his life keeps moving. But internally, something is becoming harder to maintain. Because the ego can only argue with the heart for so long before exhaustion enters the room. And exhaustion changes people, especially emotionally avoidant people. At first, his pride still tries controlling the narrative. She moved on too fast. She expected too much. I just wasn't ready. Maybe we were incompatible. And maybe pieces of those thoughts contain truth. That's what makes this phase emotionally confusing. Human relationships are rarely one-sided disasters. But underneath all the rationalizing, another truth keeps surfacing no matter how hard he tries pushing it down. He misses her in ways that are no longer temporary, not mood-based, not loneliness-based, not ego-based, specific, persistent. And honestly, that realization starts frightening him. Because missing someone casually is manageable. Missing someone deeply changes your sense of emotional control. Now, he's entering the phase where he checks her profile almost compulsively. Not dramatically. Quietly. Like addiction disguised as curiosity. He tells himself he's just wondering how she's doing. But he already knows that's not fully true. He's searching for emotional evidence. Evidence she still thinks about him. Evidence he mattered. Evidence he didn't lose something irreplaceable. And the strange part is almost everything he sees affects him. If she posts something happy, his stomach tightens. If she posts nothing at all, Somehow, that affects him too. Silence becomes its own kind of emotional trigger now. He starts reading into small things. A quote she reposted, a song in the background of a story, a photo where she looks genuinely relaxed without him. That last one especially stays with him longer than he wants to admit, because now he's confronting something his ego absolutely hates. Her emotional world continued without him, not because she never loved him, because human beings adapt to pain eventually, and watching someone survive your absence creates a very specific kind of grief, especially for someone who secretly believed their emotional connection would remain suspended forever somewhere in the background. Now he's the one emotionally suspended, and the ego begins losing control in embarrassing ways, like typing long messages and deleting them repeatedly. Not once, constantly. Sometimes the messages are honest. I've been thinking about you. I miss talking to you. I didn't handle things well. But then panic enters halfway through writing. Suddenly the vulnerability feels unbearable. So he deletes everything, starts over, makes the message colder, shorter, safer, then deletes that version too. Eventually, he throws the phone beside him and tells himself, forget it. But emotionally, he doesn't forget it. That's the problem. Nothing is resolving internally anymore. Everything stays unfinished. That emotional incompleteness follows him everywhere now, even in social situations. Especially in social situations. He'll be surrounded by people and still feel emotionally disconnected from the moment itself. Someone tells a joke. Everybody laughs. He laughs too. But there's this delayed emptiness afterward, like his body participated before his emotions arrived. And then randomly, completely randomly, he remembers something tiny about her again. The way she used to look at him when he was stressed but pretending he wasn't. The way she could tell he was emotionally overwhelmed before he admitted it. And suddenly the room feels emotionally far away. That's happening more often now. His internal world keeps interrupting his external one. He also starts realizing how much emotional energy he spent pretending not to care. That realization irritates him, because avoidance is exhausting when love remains active underneath it. And unfortunately for him, the love didn't disappear just because the relationship became complicated. That's another ugly truth nobody romanticizes enough. Sometimes people leave while still loving each other deeply. Sometimes emotional incapacity destroys things before feelings do. Now, his ego keeps trying to protect him from fully accepting that. Because if he admits the connection mattered this much, then he also has to admit he contributed to losing it. That's where the real internal war begins. And honestly, some days his pride still wins temporarily. Some days he becomes cold again internally, dismissive, detached. He tells himself, she's probably happier without me. She deserves somebody more emotionally available. I should just leave it alone. And maybe part of that sounds mature on the surface. But underneath it, there's fear. Fear that if he reaches out honestly and she no longer responds emotionally, it will confirm the loss in a permanent way. Right now, ambiguity still protects him slightly. As long as nothing is fully resolved, part of him can still imagine emotional access exists somewhere between them. That's why avoidant people often linger in indirect behavior, watching, checking, circling emotionally without fully approaching. Because direct vulnerability feels like stepping into possible rejection without armor. And armor has been his survival mechanism for years. There's another thing happening during this chapter too. He starts missing emotional safety more than emotional intensity. That shift matters. Because in earlier stages, he mostly replayed chemistry, connection, attraction. Now, Now he misses ordinary emotional closeness. The feeling of being understood without performing constantly. The relief of someone knowing his moods before he explained them. The calmness of sitting beside someone without needing to prove anything. Ironically, those were the exact moments that made him emotionally restless before. Because intimacy exposed him. Now distance exposes him differently. Now he sees how emotionally regulated he actually felt around her. And once that realization settles into the body, other interactions begin feeling strangely hollow. Not bad, just emotionally thin. And he hates himself a little for comparing. Because he tries talking to other people. He really does. Maybe even tries dating casually again. But emotionally, something keeps misfiring. He notices himself becoming impatient during shallow conversations now, or emotionally absent during physical intimacy. That part confuses him the most, because he thought distance would simplify his emotions. Instead, everything became more emotionally complicated after losing her. Now, even intimacy feels strange without emotional trust underneath it. And that realization humbles him quietly. One night, he almost calls her. Not texts. Calls. That's how overwhelmed he feels suddenly. He's sitting alone after a long day that emotionally drained him more than usual. Apartment dark except for the TV glow. Phone already in his hand before he consciously decides anything. He stares at her contact for a long time. Thumb hovering. Heart racing in a way that feels almost ridiculous for a grown man. Then the internal dialogue starts again. What are you doing? I just want to hear her voice. And then what? Silence. Because he doesn't know. That's the hardest part. He doesn't fully know what he wants anymore besides relief from the emotional ache. Part of him wants reconciliation. Part of him wants forgiveness. Part of him just wants proof the connection still exists somewhere outside memory. And another terrified part still fears intimacy itself. That contradiction is still alive inside him. That's important. Because emotional realization does not automatically erase avoidance. People imagine awareness creates instant transformation. Usually it doesn't. Usually it creates conflict first. Now, he's aware enough to suffer honestly, and not yet healed enough to move clearly. So, instead of calling her, he locks the phone again, gets up, starts cleaning the kitchen at midnight for absolutely no reason, wiping already clean counters, reorganizing things, moving physically because emotionally he feels trapped inside himself. And somewhere during that restless silence, another truth finally slips past the ego defenses. He didn't just lose a relationship. He lost the one person who made emotional honesty feel possible even when he kept resisting it. That realization lands hard. Hard enough that even his pride can't fully silence it anymore. And once the ego starts losing the argument, the chase quietly begins long before he actually reaches out. This is the part people misunderstand the most. Because when the divine masculine finally starts moving toward her again, people expect clarity, consistency, confidence, grand emotional declarations. But real men in real emotional conflict rarely return looking emotionally polished. Usually, he comes back confused. Not confused about whether he feels something. That part is already destroying him quietly. He's confused about what to do with the feelings now that he can't suppress them properly anymore. So the chase begins in fragments. Awkward fragments. Not cinematic ones. Maybe he watches her stories immediately after she posts them now. Maybe he suddenly likes an old photo at 1 a.m. and then disappears for 3 days afterward because even that level of visibility made him panic. Maybe he sends something casual that clearly and casual. Hey, saw something that reminded me of you. Short message. but his heart is beating like he confessed love in a church parking lot. That's the reality nobody talks about. Emotionally avoidant men often experience vulnerability as physical exposure. Even tiny emotional risks feel enormous internally. So, when he finally starts reaching out, it usually comes mixed with contradiction. He wants closeness desperately, and fears it almost simultaneously. That contradiction creates behavior that feels painfully inconsistent from the outside. Warm one day, distant the next, emotionally open at midnight, cold again by morning, and honestly sometimes he hates himself while doing it. Because now he can see the inconsistency in real time, but still struggles to stop it completely. That's the frustrating part of emotional conditioning. Awareness doesn't immediately erase reflexes. So now he's stuck between instinct and longing. One part of him wants to pull her close emotionally. Another part keeps whispering, "Don't lose control again." And control still matters to him more than he wants to admit. That's why his behavior becomes strange during this phase. Not fake. Strange. Because emotionally he's moving forward while psychologically parts of him are still retreating. He might finally open up during one conversation. Actually honest for once. Actually vulnerable. Saying things like, "I've been thinking about you a lot." Or, "I don't think I handled things well." And maybe for a moment she hears the softness underneath him again. The real him. The emotionally unguarded version she always sensed existed. But then afterward, he disappears for 2 days. Not because the moment wasn't real, because it was too real. That's the part people miss. Sometimes intimacy itself activates his fear response, especially after emotional distance has existed for a while. Now vulnerability feels even riskier because there's more at stake emotionally. More shame, more regret, more possibility of rejection. So he approaches emotionally, then retreats to regulate himself. Approaches again, then panics again. And from the outside, it can look manipulative sometimes. Sometimes immature. Sometimes even cruel. And honestly, occasionally is immature. That needs to be said too. Not every inconsistent behavior should be romanticized into spiritual destiny. Sometimes he genuinely lacks emotional regulation skills. Sometimes he still avoids accountability. Sometimes he wants reassurance while offering very little emotional stability in return. Human truth is messy like that. But internally, he's struggling more than he lets anybody see, especially after contact resumes. Because reconnecting with her reactivates everything he's spent months trying unsuccessfully to numb. Now, hearing her voice again affects him physically. Her laugh immediately softens parts of him he worked hard to harden. Even simple conversations destabilize him emotionally afterward. He replays everything once the call ends. Every tone shift. Every pause. Every emotional opening. And the embarrassing thing is he starts overanalyzing her the way she used to overanalyze him. If she sounds warm, he feels relief. If she sounds emotionally cautious, guilt starts crawling back into his chest. If she takes longer to respond now, suddenly he understands what uncertainty felt like from her side. That realization humbles him in ways he never expected. Because now he's emotionally experiencing the instability he once created. And it hurts. There's one specific moment that happens a lot during this phase. After reconnecting emotionally, he suddenly becomes quieter. Not because he stopped caring, because now he cares visibly again. And visible caring terrifies him. So, after moments of closeness, he often withdraws briefly to regain emotional composure. One night they talk longer than expected. Conversation flows naturally again somehow. They laugh. There's softness again. Familiarity. And for a few hours, he feels emotionally relieved for the first time in months. Like his nervous system finally exhaled. But later that night, he becomes restless again. Can't sleep properly. Replays everything she said. Suddenly fears he exposed too much emotionally. So the next morning his texts become shorter, more controlled, less vulnerable. And honestly, part of him knows she notices immediately. She always noticed. That's what scares him too, because she can feel his emotional shifts before he verbalizes them. She probably always could. Now, there's also this strange emotional jealousy surfacing inside him. Not loud possessiveness necessarily. Quieter than that. More painful. Like seeing evidence she continued growing without him. Maybe she sounds calmer now. Stronger. Less emotionally reactive than before. That affects him deeply. Because part of him expected her to remain emotionally suspended in the same grief he carried. But she adapted. And adaptation forces him to confront consequences emotionally instead of hypothetically. Now he realizes she really could leave emotionally if he stays inconsistent long enough. That realization creates urgency. But urgency mixed with avoidance becomes emotional chaos. So now he starts chasing in emotionally awkward ways. Double texting sometimes. Then pretending he doesn't care afterward. Watching her stories instantly, taking hours to answer messages because he's trying to appear emotionally composed. Wanting reassurance constantly, but struggling to ask for it directly. And underneath all of it is fear. Fear she no longer trusts him emotionally. Fear she sees through his inconsistency now. Fear he damaged something that once felt emotionally natural between them. One night he almost tells her the full truth. Not filtered truth. Not masculine controlled truth. The real thing. That he missed her constantly. That silence became unbearable. That he replayed tiny memories for months. That nobody else emotionally reached him the same way. But when the moment comes, he hesitates again, because emotional honesty still feels physically vulnerable in his body. So instead he says something smaller, safer. I've been having a hard time lately. And even that sentence feels enormous to him. That's another thing people don't understand. Men who suppress emotionally for years often experience basic vulnerability as exposure. So even partial honesty can feel terrifying internally, especially with the one person whose opinion matters emotionally. There is another contradiction happening too. Part of him wants immediate closeness again. Another part resents how emotionally dependent he feels around her. That resentment creates strange emotional whiplash. Sometimes, after intimacy returns, he suddenly becomes irritated for no obvious reason. Not at her exactly. At himself. At the loss of emotional control. At how quickly she still affects him. That's why some divine masculines act colder immediately after emotional closeness returns. Not because the closeness meant nothing. Because it meant too much. And his nervous system still doesn't fully know how to experience deep connection without simultaneously preparing for emotional danger. So now his internal dialogue sounds different. More honest. More exhausted. You love her. I know. Then why are you still acting afraid? Silence. Then finally, because if this matters that much, losing it again would destroy me. And there it is. Underneath all the inconsistency, the hot and cold behavior, the delayed responses, the emotional retreating, fear, not shallow fear, attachment level fear, because now he understands the connection deeply enough to lose emotional distance from it, but not deeply enough yet to move through intimacy without panicking sometimes. That's why the chase feels emotionally messy instead of smooth. because he's not returning as a healed man delivering wisdom. He's returning as someone emotionally cracked open by loss, still trying to learn how to stay present inside the very thing he spent so long running from. Regret doesn't usually arrive dramatically for him. That's the part nobody really explains honestly. It's not always some cinematic breakdown where he suddenly realizes everything all at once. Most of the time, regret enters quietly, slowly, in ordinary moments that shouldn't matter as much as they do. That's what makes it brutal, because he expects heartbreak to feel loud. Instead, it starts feeling painfully domestic. He's folding laundry one night when it hits him, not emotionally prepared for it at all. Just standing there matching socks badly, half watching some random show in the background, when suddenly he remembers how she used to steal his hoodies and stretch the sleeves absent-mindedly while talking. And for some reason, that memory completely ruins his mood. Not because it's profound, because it's ordinary. That's what regret feeds on eventually. Ordinary intimacy. The kind you don't realize is emotionally anchoring you until it's gone. Now everything keeps reminding him of the life that existed around the relationship, not just the relationship itself. And honestly, that distinction matters. Because now he's not only missing her emotionally, he's missing the version of himself that existed around her. The softer version, the less guarded version, the version that laughed more naturally instead of strategically. That realization unsettles him deeply, especially because he can feel how emotionally hard he became after losing her. People around him may even notice it. He responds shorter now, seems distracted more often, looks emotionally tired in subtle ways. And when people ask if he's okay, he says what men usually say. Yeah, just busy. Busy. That word hides entire emotional collapses sometimes. And the strange thing is regret keeps entering through ridiculously small moments. Like hearing a joke and instinctively reaching for his phone to send it to her before remembering they barely talk now. That reflex hurts him every single time. Because reflexes are honest. You can fake detachment socially. You cannot fake unconscious emotional instinct. And now, his instincts keep exposing how emotionally connected he still is. One night he's at the grocery store late, almost empty aisles, tired from work, emotionally numb in that specific way people become after carrying unresolved feelings too long. And without thinking, he grabs the tea she liked, actually puts it in the cart, keeps shopping for another 5 minutes before realizing what he did. He just stands there staring at the box feeling stupidly emotional over something so small. Then comes the internal dialogue again. She's not here. I know. Then why did you buy it? Silence. Because grief sometimes looks exactly like that. Not crying. Not dramatic speeches. Just standing under fluorescent grocery store lights realizing your body still includes someone in its habits. That's when regret starts becoming unavoidable. Not philosophical regret. Embodied regret. And honestly, part of him still fights it sometimes. He'll try distracting himself again. Going out more. Talking to people. Pretending momentum equals healing. But now the distractions feel thinner than ever. Even social interactions start exhausting him faster. Especially shallow ones. Because once someone emotionally meaningful exists in your nervous system, surface-level connection begins feeling strangely empty afterward. Not worthless. Just emotionally incomplete. And he notices that now in painful detail. A conversation can go perfectly fine and still leave him feeling lonely afterward. That confuses him. Because technically he's not alone. But emotionally, he feels disconnected from almost everything that isn't real. That's what losing her changed inside him. he became less tolerant of emotional emptiness while simultaneously being terrified of emotional depth. That contradiction keeps exhausting him. There's also this delayed grief around emotional safety that begins surfacing during this chapter. At first, he missed chemistry, attraction, presence. Now he misses things that almost feel humiliating to admit. The way she checked if he got home safe. The way she noticed mood shifts instantly. The fact she remembered tiny things he mentioned casually once months earlier. Nobody tells him this beforehand. Sometimes the deepest regret comes from realizing someone cared for you in ways you didn't know how to value properly at the time. And that realization arrives late. Painfully late. One night he's driving home after being out with friends. Radio low. Road mostly empty. And suddenly this memory appears out of nowhere. She was half asleep once in the passenger seat while he drove late at night. At one point she reached over without opening her eyes and rested her hand lightly on his arm for maybe 5 seconds. That's it. Tiny moment. Almost nothing. But now, he has to pull over for a second because his chest suddenly feels tight. Not because the memory is dramatic. Because it was trust. Simple trust. Unperformed intimacy. And now, he realizes how rarely he let himself fully receive that while it was happening. That's where the regret becomes sharp. Not just losing her. Failing to emotionally stay present while she was loving him. There's another ugly realization happening too. He starts understanding how lonely she probably felt near the end. That thought follows him round now. The moments she reached emotionally while he withdrew internally. The conversations where she was trying to connect while he acted emotionally overwhelmed by closeness itself. Now he sees her exhaustion differently. Not as pressure, as sadness. And honestly, that realization crushes him a little. Because hindsight removes emotional self-protection. Now, he can no longer fully hide behind, "I just needed space." Now, he sees the emotional confusion he created while trying to protect himself from vulnerability. And the worst part, some of the pain was avoidable. That thought eats at him quietly. Not all of it. Relationships are complicated. But some of it. Some of the distance. Some of the coldness. Some of the silence. And now, he's the one sitting alone replaying moments he once emotionally minimized. That irony is not lost on him. One of the hardest things for him during this phase is realizing how often she accepted partial versions of him emotionally. Not fake versions. Partial ones. The emotionally filtered version. The controlled version. The version that revealed feelings in fragments instead of fully. And somehow she still kept trying to understand him anyway. That memory creates guilt he doesn't know how to process cleanly. Because now he's confronting love retroactively. That's what delayed regret really is. Emotion catching up to reality after denial stops working. There's one particular behavior he develops now that he would never admit publicly. Sometimes he opens old photos not to look at her, but to look at the way she looked at him. That difference matters. Because now he's trying to understand what she saw in him that he couldn't see in himself at the time. And honestly, sometimes those photos are difficult for him to look at. Not because they're painful romantically, because he can physically see how emotionally guarded he was even during happy moments. The slight emotional restraint in his posture. The controlled expressions. The way she looked emotionally open while he still looked half defended. Now he notices all of it. And somewhere inside himself, shame and tenderness start mixing together in confusing ways. That emotional mixture is hard to carry, especially for someone raised to suppress instead of process. So some nights he still goes emotionally numb again. Still distracts himself. Still pretends he's overthinking unnecessarily. But the regret keeps returning anyway. Quietly, persistently, like emotional gravity. And eventually, he starts admitting truths to himself he couldn't face earlier. Not out loud yet. Internally first. She loved me carefully. Pause. And I kept responding cautiously instead of honestly. That sentence stays in his chest afterward. Because now he understands something devastating. She wasn't asking him to become someone else. She was asking him to stop hiding inside himself while being loved. And maybe if he had understood that earlier, things would have unfolded differently. But human beings rarely understand emotional truth in real time. Usually they understand it afterward, in silence, in memory, in regret. That's why this phase hurts so much. Because now the connection is no longer abstract to him. Now it's woven into ordinary life, into routines, into reflexes, into unconscious habits. And unfortunately for him, the human heart does not care how late the realization arrives. It still feels everything eventually. At some point, the excuses stop sounding believable even to him. That's the shift. Not when somebody else calls him out. Not when she demands answers. Not during some dramatic confrontation. Quietly, internally. That's where it happens first. Because eventually he runs out of ways to explain the connection without confronting himself honestly. And honestly, that confrontation is ugly. Not inspiring. Not spiritually beautiful. Just painfully human. Because now he has to sit with a truth he avoided for a long time. He wasn't only running from commitment. He was running from exposure. That realization unsettles him deeply because exposure sounds different than fear of relationships. Exposure is personal. It means she saw him too clearly. Not the curated version. Not the emotionally controlled version. The real one. The scared one. The emotionally inconsistent one. The one constantly trying to appear affected while quietly craving closeness. And now, he understands why intimacy felt so overwhelming around her specifically. Because she kept seeing through things he was still trying to hide from himself. That level of emotional visibility is terrifying for people who survive through self-protection. Especially men taught that emotional control equals emotional safety. Now, he's replaying moments differently again. Not just with regret. With recognition. The time she asked, "Why do you pull away right after we get closer?" At the time, he gave surface-level answers. "I've just been stressed. I need space sometimes. I don't know what's wrong with me lately." But now he realizes part of him absolutely knew. He just couldn't tolerate saying it out loud. Because saying it out loud would have meant admitting how deeply she affected him emotionally. And emotional dependence still scared him more than loneliness did back then. That's the truth he's finally beginning to admit. Not to other people, to himself. And that honesty changes the emotional atmosphere inside him completely. Because now he's no longer grieving only the relationship. Now he's grieving the version of himself that sabotaged intimacy while desperately wanting it. That realization creates a very specific kind of heartbreak. Especially when he begins recognizing how often fear disguised itself as logic. He called it timing, called it confusion, called it needing freedom. But underneath all those explanations, fear. Fear of being emotionally known deeply enough that rejection would destroy him. Fear that once someone truly saw him, they'd eventually leave anyway. Fear that intimacy would expose needs he spent years pretending he didn't have. And honestly, the deeper he looks, the more embarrassed he feels by some of his behavior. Not because he was evil, because he was emotionally terrified while pretending to be emotionally detached. That contradiction exhausted everyone involved, especially her. Now he remembers moments that suddenly make painful sense. The way his chest tightened after vulnerable conversations. The irrational irritation he felt after emotional closeness. The urge to create distance immediately after feeling deeply connected. Back then, he interpreted those feelings as signs something was wrong. Now he realizes nothing was wrong. He was panicking because intimacy was becoming real. That distinction changes everything internally. Because now he sees how many times he confused emotional safety with emotional danger simply because safety made him feel exposed. There's one memory that keeps replaying differently now. They were sitting together quietly one night. No conflict, no tension. Actually, one of the calmest moments they ever had. And suddenly she looked at him and said softly, "You don't have to perform being okay with me all the time." At the time, something inside him almost flinched. He remembers that physical reaction now. The tightening in his stomach. The sudden urge to look away. And he didn't fully understand why back then. Now he does. Because she was inviting authenticity, and authenticity felt emotionally unsafe to someone who built his identity around self-protection. That's what he was actually running from. Not her. Not love. The loss of emotional armor. And once he finally admits that internally, a lot of his behavior becomes impossible to romanticize anymore. Now he sees the emotional immaturity clearly. The mixed signals. The distancing after intimacy. The way he made her emotionally responsible for interpreting silence instead of communicating honestly. That realization humbles him deeply. Because now he understands something painful. She was trying to love someone who kept disappearing emotionally every time the connection became too real. And the worst part, he usually disappeared right when she needed emotional reassurance most. Now he sees those moments clearly enough to feel grief over them. Not just guilt, grief. Because he understands what they cost both of them emotionally. One night he sits alone replaying an argument they had near the end. She asked him directly, "Why does caring about someone make you act colder?" He got defensive immediately back then. Felt misunderstood. Maybe even angry. But now he whispers the answer quietly to himself in an empty apartment months later. "Because if I care that much, you can hurt me." And there it is. Finally, the real thing underneath all the avoidance. Not indifference. Vulnerability terror. That realization almost makes him nauseous, because suddenly his entire emotional pattern becomes visible. He realizes he spent years trying to experience love without surrendering emotional control. And human intimacy doesn't fully work that way. Not deeply. Real connection eventually asks for honesty the ego cannot manage cleanly. That's why he kept fluctuating. One foot emotionally in, one foot emotionally preparing to escape. And the exhausting thing is he often genuinely wanted closeness while simultaneously fearing it. That contradiction made him unstable in love. Now he sees it, painfully clearly. There's also this devastating realization that starts surfacing during this chapter. She probably felt alone while sitting right beside him sometimes. That thought destroys him quietly, because now he remembers moments where she stopped asking questions, stopped pushing emotionally, became softer in that sad, emotionally tired way people do when they sense someone pulling away internally. At the time, he interpreted her quietness as relief. Now he realizes it may have been resignation. That realization stays heavy in his chest for days. Because now he's confronting the emotional consequences of self-protection. Not theoretically. Personally, there's another internal dialogue that begins happening more frequently now too. Brutally honest dialogue. You loved her. Yes. So why did you keep running? Because I thought needing someone made me weak. And now, long silence. Now, I think pretending not to need anyone made me lonely. That thought changes something inside him permanently, not magically. He's still imperfect, still emotionally inconsistent sometimes, still afraid in certain moments. But now the denial is breaking apart. And once denial collapses, the grief becomes more honest. That's why this chapter feels heavier emotionally, because now he's no longer protecting himself with confusion. Now he understands, and understanding creates accountability. He starts seeing how often she tried creating emotional closeness while he focused on emotional survival. How many moments she was reaching toward him while he was internally calculating escape routes from vulnerability. And honestly, some of those realizations make him physically uncomfortable now. He'll replay a conversation and suddenly have to stand up and walk around because shame floods his body unexpectedly. That's real too. The body reacts when truth finally lands emotionally. One thing especially keeps haunting him. She probably wasn't asking for nearly as much as he imagined. That realization crushes him. Because emotionally avoidant people often experience ordinary intimacy as overwhelming pressure. Now, with distance and perspective, he sees her requests differently. She wanted consistency, honesty, presence, not perfection. And he kept reacting as though love itself was trapping him. Now, he understands something devastating. The relationship may not have failed because love was absent. It may have failed because fear stayed louder than honesty for too long. That thought follows him everywhere now. Driving at night, standing in the shower, lying awake unable to sleep properly. And eventually another truth quietly forms underneath all the regret. He didn't run because the connection wasn't real. He ran because it was real enough to dismantle the emotionally defended version of himself he spent years building. And now he's standing in the ruins of that defense system, finally realizing how lonely it actually was inside there. By the time he finally starts chasing her, honestly, something inside him has already broken. Quietly, not in one dramatic moment, not all at once. More like a slow emotional collapse that happened in private while nobody was watching. That's the part people misunderstand. They think the chase begins when he sends the message, when he calls, when he comes back emotionally. No, the chase begins much earlier than that. It begins the moment denial stops protecting him, the moment distractions stop numbing him, the moment silence stops feeling peaceful. The moment his own emotional patterns become impossible to romanticize anymore. That's when the internal collapse starts. And honestly, it humbles him in ways nothing else could. Because now he's forced to sit with truths he spent most of his life outrunning. That emotional distance did not make him stronger. That shutting down did not protect him from pain. That pretending not to need anyone did not create freedom. It created isolation. And now he feels the isolation everywhere. In his apartment, in conversations, in routine, even inside himself. That's why this phase feels so emotionally raw. Because for the first time, he's no longer just grieving her. He's grieving the entire emotionally defended identity he built to survive intimacy. And identity grief is different. Heavier, more disorienting, because now he has to ask himself questions he avoided for years. Who am I when I stop pretending I don't care? Who am I without emotional distance? What if love was never the threat? What if the real threat was vulnerability exposing how deeply I wanted it? Those questions stay with him now, especially late at night, especially during ordinary moments. One night he's sitting alone after work. No music playing, no TV on, just silence, real silence. And he realizes something almost embarrassing. He misses her presence during moments where nothing exciting was happening. Not dates, not passion, not intensity, just existence. The feeling of somebody being there, somebody emotionally familiar, somebody whose energy soft in the room instead of making him perform inside it. That realization hits him harder than any dramatic memory ever did, because now he understands something he couldn't understand before. Peace terrified him almost as much as intimacy did. Not toxic chaos, not games, actual emotional safety. That's why he kept destabilizing closeness when it appeared. His nervous system was more familiar with emotional self-protection than consistent connection. Now he sees that clearly enough to feel grief over it. And the strange thing is, even now, after all this realization, he still isn't magically healed. That's important, because this story isn't about becoming spiritually perfect. It's about becoming emotionally honest. And honesty is messy. Some days he still wants to run, still gets overwhelmed by closeness, still hesitates before sending vulnerable messages. But now the difference is, he knows why. That changes everything internally, because awareness removes the illusion that his distancing was random. Now he recognizes his patterns while they're happening. The urge to emotionally retreat after intimacy, the panic after vulnerability, the instinct to regain control whenever feelings become too visible. And instead of automatically obeying those instincts now, sometimes he pauses. Not always, but sometimes. That pause matters, because growth often begins there, not in perfection, in interruption, in the moment somebody notices themselves reaching for old defenses and quietly chooses not to disappear completely this time. One evening she texts him something simple, nothing emotional, just casual, but he stares at the message longer than necessary, not because of the words themselves, because underneath the conversation exists months of unresolved feeling. History lives inside ordinary interactions now. That's what makes reconnecting so emotionally intense. Even normal conversations feel loaded, and part of him still fears ruining everything again. That fear never fully disappears overnight, especially when regret already exists. So now, when he reaches toward her emotionally, there's tenderness mixed with caution. Not calculated caution, human caution. The kind people develop after realizing they're capable of hurting someone they genuinely loved. That awareness changes his emotional energy completely. He listens differently now, responds differently, not perfectly, but more honestly. And honestly, sometimes the honesty comes out awkwardly, because emotionally guarded men rarely become smooth communicators overnight. Sometimes his vulnerability arrives fragmented, half-finished sentences, long pauses, confessions hidden inside casual comments, like saying, "I didn't realize how much I depended on hearing from you," then immediately looking uncomfortable after admitting it. Or, "The silence after you left was louder than I expected." Small sentences, but emotionally enormous for someone who spent years suppressing emotional dependence. And occasionally, he still retreats afterward, still becomes quieter after moments of closeness. But now the retreat feels different internally. Before, he disappeared because he wanted escape. Now, sometimes he disappears because he's overwhelmed by how much the connection still matters. That distinction matters too. One night during a conversation, she asks him softly, "Why are you finally being honest now?" The question sits heavy between them, and for a second he almost gives another polished answer. Something safe, something emotionally controlled. But he's too tired now, too emotionally stripped down for performance. So after a long silence, he finally says, because losing you forced me to meet parts of myself I kept avoiding. And honestly, that's the closest thing to truth he's ever spoken. Not perfect truth, but real truth. Because separation didn't magically transform him. Loss exposed him. That's different. It exposed how emotionally lonely he already was before she left. How much effort it took to maintain emotional distance constantly. How exhausting it became pretending not to need reassurance, connection, softness, intimacy. And now, he understands something painful. The version of masculinity he was surviving inside before was starving him emotionally. Not immediately. Slowly. Quietly. Until love finally exposed the emptiness underneath it. There is another realization that settles into him during this phase too. She was never asking him to lose himself. She was asking him to stop abandoning himself emotionally while trying to stay emotionally safe. That thought changes the way he remembers everything. The arguments, the distance, the emotional inconsistency. Now he sees the relationship less like a trap and more like a mirror. A painful mirror. One that reflected both his longing and his fear back at him simultaneously. And mirrors are uncomfortable when you spend years avoiding eye contact with yourself emotionally. That's why the collapse had to happen first. The collapse of denial. The collapse of ego. The collapse of emotional performance. Because without that collapse, he would have kept mistaking emotional numbness for strength forever. Now he knows better, even if knowing hurts. Especially because he understands there are no guarantees anymore. She may forgive him. She may not. She may still love him. She may be tired now. And the uncertainty terrifies him deeply because for the first time, he's emotionally attached enough to risk genuine heartbreak consciously. Not accidentally. Consciously. That's new for him. And maybe that's the real transformation underneath all of this. Not becoming fearless. Becoming willing. Willing to feel. Willing to be seen. Willing to stop hiding behind emotional distance even when vulnerability shakes him. Because by the time the divine masculine finally starts chasing honestly, he already knows something devastating. Distance never saved him from pain. It only delayed the moment he would finally have to feel everything fully. And unfortunately for him, by the time he understands that truth, her absence has already changed him permanently.
Thank you for spending this moment with me. If this message resonated with your soul, remember to subscribe and continue this journey with us here on Twin Flame Journey. And always remember, what is meant for your soul will always find its way back to you. Until next time, beautiful soul, trust the journey.